Many of us have went through dramatic changes in our lives. Some are good and some are bad. But no matter what kind of changes we face, we dive in head first and deal with the consequences last. As the years pass by, our experiences lead us to second guess ourselves. This is when we begin a journey in life. A journey Joseph Campbell would call our hero's journey. Let's watch this journey, and what will it look like? That's life.
What do Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo all have in common with the heroes of ancient myths? What if I told you they are all variants of the same hero? Do you believe that? Joseph Campbell did. He studied myths from all over the world and published a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, retelling dozens of stories and explaining how each represents the monomyth or hero's journey. So, what is the hero's journey? Think of it as a cycle. The journey begins and ends in the hero's ordinary world, but the quest passes through an unfamiliar, special world. Along the way, there are some key events. Think about your favorite book or movie. Does it follow this pattern? Status quo. That's where we start. 1 o'clock. Call to adventure. The hero receives a mysterious message, an invitation, a challenge. 2 o'clock. Assistance. The hero needs some help, probably from someone older, wiser. 3 o'clock. Departure. The hero crosses the threshold from his normal, safe home and enters the special world and adventure. We're not in Kansas anymore. 4 o'clock. Trials. Being a hero is hard work. Our hero solves a riddle, slays a monster, escapes from a trap. 5 o'clock. Approach. It's time to face the biggest ordeal, the hero's worst fear. 6 o'clock. Crisis. This is the hero's darkest hour. He faces death and possibly even dies, only to be reborn. 7 o'clock. Treasure. As a result, the hero claims some treasure, special recognition, power. 8 o'clock. Result. This can vary between stories. Do the monsters bow down before the hero, or do they chase him as he flees from a special world? 9 o'clock. Return. After all that adventure, the hero returns to his ordinary world. 10 o'clock. New life. This quest has changed the hero. He has outgrown his old life. 11 o'clock. Resolution. All the tangled plot lines get straightened out. 12 o'clock. Status quo. But upgraded to a new level. Nothing is quite the same once you're a hero. Many popular books and movies follow this ancient formula pretty closely, but let's see how well The Hunger Games fits the hero's journey template. When does Katniss Everdeen hear a call to adventure that gets the story moving? When her sister's name is called from the ladder. How about assistance? Is anyone going to help her on her adventure? Haymitch. What about departure? Does she leave her ordinary world? She gets on a train to the capital. Okay, so you get the idea. What do you have in common with Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo? Well, you're human, just like them. The hero's journey myth exists in all human cultures and keeps getting updated because we humans reflect on our world through symbolic stories of our own lives. You leave your comfort zone, have an experience that transforms you, and then you recover and do it again. You don't literally slay dragons or fight Voldemort, but you face problems just as scary. Joseph Campbell said, "In the cave you fear to enter lies the treasure you seek." What is the symbolic cave you fear to enter? Auditions for the school play? Baseball tryouts? Love? Watch for this formula in books, movies, and TV shows you come across. You will certainly see it again, but also be sensitive to it in your own life. Listen for your call to adventure. accept the challenge, conquer your fear, and claim the treasure you seek. And then, do it all over again.
Let's imagine that Joseph Campbell's theory is our spiritual life journey with God. Isn't this the same journey Peter has in Matthew 14:22-33? Peter is in an ordinary world watching Jesus perform miracles as usual, feeding 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes for 5,000 people. Then he calls his disciples to get in the boat and begins their adventures on the lake. When Jesus walks on the lake, weren't the disciples refusing Jesus because of fear? They thought he was a ghost. What does Jesus say in verse 27? Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Doesn't Peter meet his mentor, Jesus, by saying in verse 28, Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water. Jesus tells Peter to cross the threshold in verse 29. Come, he says. Then Peter got down off the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. Isn't Jesus testing Peter by walking on the water? And isn't Peter approaching Jesus by faith? Peter is trusting himself in Jesus. Peter's ordeal is his fear, which causes him to lose sight and almost drowns to death, as what we see in verse 30. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. As we witness in verse 31, we see Jesus saving Peter. Immediately, Jesus reaches out his hand and catch him. You of little faith, he says, why did you doubt? Some would say this was a rebirth for Peter. What if it wasn't a rebirth, but a reward? When Peter was drowning, Jesus said, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Jesus wasn't saving him. He said those words to baptize him in the new spiritual life of Christ. Let's pause for a moment and let's understand what's going on. How many of us can relate to Peter so far? For the last 3 weeks, we've been talking about the Spirit. How the Spirit leads us through our own acceptance. How the Spirit enhances us with the power through our gifts. And how we find holiness through the Spirit. Isn't this how we feel when we are captured by the Spirit? We feel alive, fearless, bold, and confident. We feel delight in our life, and we are willing to do anything for God. But sometimes, through our good works, we forget to slow down, and like Peter, we ask if we can have more. But God sees our heart and our intentions. He knows our way and what our intentions are. He knows our way and ways. At this moment, Peter was fearless in faith. He knew how to test the Spirit by asking Jesus to lead. So why did he sink? It wasn't because he didn't have faith. He had faith. It was because he was walking alone. If we look back in Luke 5, how did Jesus and Simon Peter meet? They met at a lake, fishing. And who fell on their knees and asked for forgiveness alone? Simon Peter. And what did Jesus say to Simon Peter in Luke 5, verse 10 to 11? Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people. So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything and followed him. So Peter is with other disciples in the boat. He called Jesus out and said, "Tell me to come to the water." Then Peter stepped out of the boat alone and walked on water. Peter was walking alone into the unknown water. It wasn't because he didn't have faith with Jesus. It was because he was scared of the new surrounding he was stepping into. An unknown taste of a special world. An unknown taste of a spiritual life with no limits. How many of you felt that way in your journey as a Christian? The moment where everything is going well with your spiritual journey, so you ask for more. But this journey isn't easy without the help of Jesus. Like Peter, when we are alone in our new journey, we drown. We cry out for Jesus to help us through the unknown journey. But no matter how much we cry out, we also need to surrender ourselves through our own actions and admit our doubts and our intentions. This is why Jesus called Peter out and said, "You with little faith, why did you doubt?" Once we surrender and accept our struggles, doubts, and intentions, Jesus will lift us up and we will become new. We become rewarded through the spiritual baptism. A baptism that started with Jesus in his spiritual journey in Matthew 3, verse 16 to 17. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went out of the water. At that moment, heaven was open, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove, alighting on him. And the voice from heaven said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." After Jesus was baptized, Jesus was also tested with his face in the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights. What Jesus went through is the same journey Peter is going through. It's the same journey we as Christians go through to reach another life in Christianity. Then, like the hero story, we make the road back. Like Peter and Jesus in Matthew 14, verse 32. And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Like verse 33, we are then resurrected in a new life with Christ, returning to our elixir with Jesus by praising, honoring, and accepting him as the Son of God. Then those who were in the boat worshiped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." As Christians, our life isn't easy. Once we accept Christ, we become the representative. We become the face of Christianity. Everything we do, someone is witnessing. Someone is witnessing our actions and repeating what we are doing. If we only do enough, that is what we are telling others. That it's okay to just do enough. Peter wasn't just enhancing his spiritual life, but also making disciples. His action helped other disciples see what it takes to be on the journey with God. His intentions, rather good or bad, Jesus used him for a bigger purpose, to show others how much it takes to follow God. In the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and John are the ones who wrote their witnesses to what they saw Paul's journey on the water. Luke was the only gospel that did not witness this moment, but explains what happened after. But in all four gospels, every disciple witnessed Jesus' spiritual transformation during his baptism with John the Baptist. In Matthew, Mark, and John. As I ask the praise team to come up, brothers and sisters, the spirit of life isn't to be mediocre. Anyone can do good things in this world. Anyone can fill in the spot. Anyone could be with you through your transgressions. But how far are you willing to walk alone with Jesus? What will it take for you to be like Peter? Does your actions bear witness to others with your spirituality with God? Our actions are the consequences for Christ. So what actions are you willing to take? The only person who will know that answer is you.